Lucas, so good to have you on here, sir. Um, and
Of course, thanks for
we're
having me.
doing this at completely different times, which is always fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, sir. Briefly, just mentioned it. You came back home recently,
Yeah.
and that's from the States, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we just did the residency tour of the States, which was awesome. Yeah, first time we kind of did that residency format, which was yeah, it was nice to kind of break the break the mold of how we usually do it, which is, in a bus and you kind of hit a different city every day. But yeah, this one we did like three, four, yeah, 3 or 4 nights in each city. Um, and we were able to stay in the one spot for an extended period of time. So it was good. It kind of felt a little bit more normal. Yeah, just like being in the one spot for an extended period of time. And yeah, yeah, and obviously the residency format as well. It really, I think, allowed and encouraged the fans to travel out to the shows, and either camp or like stay in the city that we are playing at. And yeah, yeah, I think it made it easier for people to do multiple shows because they also didn't have to travel as much. And really encourages the kind of the bootlegger and the tailgating culture, um, which we think is really cool as well. We love, yeah, love seeing that. So
Right.
yeah, it was cool. Yeah, right. I really liked the format. But yeah, not to say that we'll do that every time. We just like to change things up and not do the same thing every time.
Right, right. Was that with the Kamikaze Palm Tree was on some of those shows, right?
Yeah, yeah. They were on all the shows except for Hollywood Bowl. Because we did the 3 hour set at Hollywood Bowl, and you pretty much what time do they open doors at, like, I think it was 6:30, and we played from 7:30, and they've got a hard curfew at 10:30. So yeah, we just couldn't fit them in, unfortunately, because we wanted to do the big marathon set to finish the tour on, at that super special venue. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, they were awesome. Really, really great band, just really interesting musically, um, and really great people. We've known Josh, the bassist, for almost 10 years now. I think it was our second tour of the States in 2014 when we supported White Fence.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, at the time, Josh was playing bass in Tim's band. And yeah, we've just always kept in contact, and you know, um, we usually see him when we're in LA. And yeah, when we started hearing and seeing Kamikaze Palm Tree, the stuff they were coming out with, because they're a pretty new band. I think they got together in kind of 2020, 2021, started putting some stuff together. And
Yeah,
um,
they're great. Cole was on here and he was
yeah,
talking about
I
it
saw
when
that. Yeah,
yeah, when he was on here. Yeah. Great,
yeah, and
great guy,
yeah,
great music.
yeah, exactly. And everyone in the band have other projects as well that we're really familiar with. And they're all just interesting people and really good musicians. Yeah, so it was really great having them on board as well.
What was it like playing the Hollywood Bowl for that extended amount of time?
It was incredible, honestly. Like, yeah, obviously the venue is just wild. Like, yeah, I mean, just to go to a show there would be insane. And to play there was amazing. And yeah, the 3 hour shows, I love them. I do our set time, just our like regular set time, has been extending. Last tour it was pretty much an hour 45, and like these ones have been edging closer to 2 hours. So like 3 hours, it doesn't, at now where we're at. Um, with the sets, it doesn't seem like that much more of a stretch just to go for another hour. And I could have done another hour or two, I reckon. It was just, just the adrenaline from playing there, and just playing those long shows. Like, it's, yeah, you just feel like we can really, really get in the zone by that point.
Stretch your legs a bit, sure.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. Yeah, I guess the only downside was that, we finish at 10:30, and then you have to get out of the venue by midnight, because they have, it's heavily unionized, and they're really, really strict with all that stuff, like, which is great, as they should be. They've got really good crew, and everyone's like paid as they should be, but it's like everything is down to the minute. So it felt like we got off stage, and we were getting in the van, like, it's nice just to have some time just to, like, soak it up after a show like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we went to a bar afterwards, and hung out with all the crew and Kamikaze, and yeah. But yeah, no, it was awesome. Yeah, I'd love to go back there.
Sounds like a
Hopefully.
good deal.
Yeah.
Is it ever difficult to adjust to the time change while on tour, especially touring the States?
The States isn't too bad, because we usually just fly direct to LA, and
And that's
the
15 hours or something?
yeah,
16
14,
hours?
15 hours, and the flight we usually get usually leaves at like 10 or 11 p.m. from Australia. So, usually kind of tired a few hours into that flight, and it's not too hard to get some sleep. And then you kind of, when you land, it's kind of, yeah, like early afternoon. So you can't, yeah, it's pretty easy, I find, to when we fly to LA, to align with the new time zone, as long as you get some sleep on the flight. It's usually Europe that's harder, because it's, two or three flights, and yeah, you just kind of get knocked around a bit more. But yeah, I have no trouble with LA, and the same coming back. We fly overnight, and then you land in the morning. So I didn't get any jet lag coming back. We always have a couple of days before we play as well. Yeah, I think this tour we had a day off, and then we played Boston Calling, which wasn't. I think that was just a 90-minute show, or 75. And
Just
then,
like that's a lot to like somebody
oh,
else.
that's like a short show for us, for sure.
Just,
It feels.
just 90 minutes, no problem. Just exerting all this energy.
But then, yeah, after Boston Calling, we had, I think, 2 or 3 days before we started the tour proper. And 2 of those days we had, like, production rehearsals in Nashville. Yeah, so that kind of allowed us to, yeah, kind of take stock for a few days and rehearse and kind of get into the mode. So yeah, it's pretty chill. I guess we're used to it as well. Been doing this long enough.
When did you start playing the bass?
Um, I was probably maybe 15 or 16. I, like, started on guitar. Um, I had classical guitar lessons when I was like 8 years old. Just because my parents were, like, super encouraging of, like, anything we wanted to do, really. And, like, my sisters were learning violin, and, they were like, "Oh, do you want to learn an instrument?" And I was just like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll learn guitar." And, at 8 years old, I, like, didn't know, that there were kind of different avenues you could go down, I guess. And neither did my parents. Like, they're not musical at all, aside from, like, being music fans. And so I just, like, did classical guitar lessons. And, I just, like, I guess I hadn't really, like, developed a, like, music taste at all. And yeah, I just wasn't really into it, didn't really enjoy it, so it didn't last long. But then I think it was probably when I was about 11 or 12. Like, I'm the youngest of four, and my sister and my brother had started to teach themselves guitar. and they were like obviously like developing their own musical tastes, which I kind of inherited. And then when they were teaching themselves guitar and like teaching themselves the songs that they liked listening to, that was like a real aha moment for me at that age. I was like, oh, you can play the music you like and not just like learn classical guitar, which I have like no idea about or no
And
interest in.
which you love now, right? Like that's all you listen to. It's classical
Classic.
guitar stuff now, which is kind of odd.
I mean, I appreciate it, of course, but it's not something I listen to a lot. Um, but yeah, I think when that just kind of clicked for me. It's like, oh, I can learn like Tool and Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff like that. And then I guess I think my brother and sister just like kind of I think it was my brother. He showed me like how to read tabs, and by then I was like developing my own taste and like inheriting my parents' record collection, which is a lot of like Pink Floyd and Hendrix and Zeppelin and all that classic 60s and 70s stuff. I guess that kind of piqued my interest, and then I started guitar lessons with someone who I didn't do the classical grades or anything. I guess it was just more like rock guitar lessons. And like I guess just more reading chord charts and tabs and stuff like that. So I started off on guitar, and then one of our early bands, we lost a bassist, and I just bought like $100 like pawn shop bass, and I just started playing bass out of necessity. And I think I'd kind of like dabbled a little bit at that point. My guitar teacher was actually also like an accomplished bass player and teacher as well, so I had like learned a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I was like never a great guitarist. Like I never got really into those real crazy like solos or anything like that. I don't know. It's not that I wasn't into it. I just didn't get really deep like I guess like Stu and Joey kind of did in their teens, like playing metal and just like really trying to like obsessively hone those chops. I just kind of started playing bass and enjoyed it, and it just kind of stuck. And not to say like I still play guitar pretty often.
Only classical though, right?
yeah, of course. I get my old notebooks out. But yeah, so I guess I guess I like picked it up seriously around like 15 or something like that, and I'm 32 now, which is weird to say out loud.
Couple years in.
Yeah.
You might stick with it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Still early on.
Yeah, exactly.
Did the bass come more naturally to you, looking back on it now, than guitar did?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it like just really intrigued me. Like obviously it's quite easy to transfer from guitar because it's the bottom 4 strings of the bass are the same as guitar, so it's like a very easy transition. And just the role of the bass guitar in a band just really intrigued me. What its job is in like underpinning the harmony, and I guess I was starting to learn very, very basic theory, and I kind of started to discover that it can be more than just like playing like the root note of the chord. And I kind of slowly discovered that it's a bit more interesting than it might seem on the surface.
Right. I mean, and now, I mean, it's still early on, so there's more to learn. There's more like digging to do to get to the bottom of it.
There's always more digging. There's always more. I know you're like kind of setting me up for a joke here, but
I'm just lobbing it up,
you never,
Lucas.
you
I'm
never,
logging
you
it up.
never, you never, you never stop learning.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm seriously only just scratching the surface.
It's awesome. It's fantastic. When did you kind of link up with King Gizzard for the first time?
So I guess, yeah, it was around like really 16, 17, 18, like our early teens. I was playing in a band with Ambrose. I was playing in a separate band with Cabs and Stu. And then Stu was also playing in another band with Cook. And
A lot of bands
yes,
going around. A lot of
so
stuff
that we
happening.
were all playing in these bands. We were all playing gigs together. We were like starting to get onto the pub scene and just like playing shows together with all our bands, but then also, you know, starting to get support slots of like touring bands and not really like touring really at that point, except like maybe the odd show in Sydney or something like that. Um, and yeah, then we like started to go to university, and we were doing this like bachelor of arts in music industry. Um, and there we met Eric and Joe, or Stu. Stu was in their year. I was the year after. Stu finished high school a year before me. And yeah, part of that course was a performance element, which each week we would kind of uh, like we would have different like ensembles or groups each week like perform different songs or whatever. And it was like it was called like performance, and we were critiqued on like every element of that. Yeah, so we started playing in all different little combinations, I guess. And that actually our university lecturer has dug up some of the old like videos and has put them on YouTube like quite recently. uh, and yeah, that was like quite nostalgic, like watching those back. But yeah, that was kind of the early formation of Gizzard. We were um, trying out all these different combinations and different like styles and stuff, I guess. And then that it became a band outside of university that it was like this side project, um, you know, separate to all our other bands that I mentioned before. It was kind of like this project that was like the less serious kind of like fun party band. Like King Gizzard was the side project, and it was this really open thing, and the lineup was always in flux, and it was really simple, like 2, 3, or 4 chords, and it just every song had a quiet part and a loud part, and like designed so that like anyone could literally just like play with us at a party if they wanted to, and we could tell them the chords to the song just before playing it. um it was meant to be just this really fun kind of obnoxious like party band that we weren't taking seriously. But I think we quickly realized that there was something in that, you know um maybe not in the like obnoxious part, but not not caring or like doing things like how you're supposed to. And yeah, I think it just kind of snowballed, and then the like kind of lineup kind of solidified like quickly after that, because it just started to gain traction. Like we literally just started playing parties, but then started to get offers for gigs and supports, and it just snowballed really quickly. And we're like, oh, maybe there's something in this, even though it just started as something that's not that serious.
How early on within the band did the name come about, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
I think we played like a handful of gigs early on under different names, and it changed a few times. But um, yeah, I think maybe there was like a gig that was like a really, I don't know, like a kind of big gig that we got offered early on. I can't remember what, but I'm just going off, I think, what I've heard Stewan say in interviews before. But it's just something that made us be like, all right, we have to like settle on a name now because this is actually becoming a thing.
It's going on a flyer. There has to be a name associated.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. That it's pretty much something like that. And because at that point we had changed our name a few times, or we were literally just like playing parties, and we didn't really have a name. So yeah, I guess it was pretty early on. I think it was around when we like was solidified the lineup as well, and we were like, all right, this is a thing, and these are the people involved, and this is our name. And for some reason, it was King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
When did you start to feel like, oh, there is something here? Was it immediately that you're like, okay, this is
um,
becoming something
yeah, there
tangible,
was
I guess?
there was a bit of traction early on, and people were actually coming to our shows, which was cool. Like it felt there was a genuine kind of like word of mouth, like groundswell going on. Um, and yeah, and it was building quicker than any other band that any of us were in. Um, but I think for me, it was when we were offered a spot to play at Meredith Music Festival, which is a music festival in rural Victoria, which is the state that we live in down here. And it's a festival that like we have been going to since we were like 16, 15, 16. Um, yeah, and that was just like, I mean, it's probably still my favorite festival. And when we were offered to play, we were probably in our early 20s, and yeah, it was just kind of like the holy grail for us. So yeah, when we got offered to play that, that was like crazy for us. um and like we've played it a couple of times since, I think, but yeah, it's definitely like still one of my favorite festivals in the world. And play it play it tomorrow again if we were given another offer.
And that's gonna be on July 3rd, so, or 4th rather. So that'll, yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, that's in yeah, it's in December over here. Oh, and then they do it in March as well. Like it's called a different thing, but on the same site, and that's the same people who book it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really cool festival. It's
Good
one
deal.
of my favorites for sure.
Uh, did it feel very natural, like the progression of things of like, all right, we got like we're solidifying the band, we're playing these shows. Was it like a step by step thing, or did it just kind of blow up one day?
It was definitely I think King Gizzard has always been a step by step thing. It's always been very gradual. Um, yeah, which I think is good. Like I feel like, yeah, there's been no massive overnight jumps, and which that has allowed us to like take small steps and learn along the way. Um, and just keep us grounded as well, I think. Like, yeah, I mean, who knows what would have happened if we played the Hollywood Bowl on our second US tour. Like, you know what I mean? It's been just in every aspect, those small steps have, yeah, allowed us to learn along the way. And yeah, I just couldn't imagine taking a big step like that. And like, for example, like knowing how to put together a production or a show to like fit a venue that big. Yeah, we've it's just always been gradual. And even bringing crew members on, like very gradually, our crew has obviously grown over the years. But we've each person is like really essential, and they've kind of proved their worth. And we've probably done a few tours. We've been able to like consider like, oh, maybe we need someone to do this, or like maybe we need a monitor person now, or like, the most recent crew member we've brought in is a lighting tech, because Jace, who does all our artwork and does our live visuals, he was our first crew member and is pretty much a member of the band. Like he's crew, but he's somewhere in between as well.
Crew
We
adjacent. Crew adjacent. Yeah.
is crew adjacent, yeah. And we had him doing live visuals before we even had a sound tech. I think like a front of house tech is the obvious like first crew member for like any band, but Jace's art has just been synonymous with our aesthetic, like since our first album, really. And he's done every album cover since, and a lot of our videos, and has been doing our live visuals like since we started touring internationally. Yeah, and anyway, so we never got a lighting tech because he was always doing the visuals. And then yeah, like kind of the last few years, we've just been using house lighting techs, but more and more like, Jace needs to work with someone who complements him and doesn't work against him when he's doing live visuals. So now we have a lighting tech as well, and that's been really really good for him, and obviously the whole show, because yeah, lighting has just always been something secondary for us because we already had Jace. But now we've got someone who's in our crew doing that. It's kind of made us realize that it can really elevate the show, and it can really complement and elevate what Jace does as well.
Even going all the way back to the party days, right? Like you guys made the lights just so.
Yeah, exactly.
When did that start to? When did those other outside kind of forces start to be focused in on, like, okay, lighting and sound has to be a certain way? Was that like an early on kind of thing that you guys were paying attention to, or was it later on that you're like, maybe we could adjust this and fix that and make it better than it
um
is?
I guess it just became a necessity at a certain point. I mean, the early days of international touring, and I think a lot of American bands would be familiar with this. It's like when you tour, and this is insane, and like looking back, it's insane. But we would hire someone who would drive us. They would tour manage. They would sometimes sell our merch and be our front of house tech, and like that was just like what you had to do. I mean, in those early days we drove a lot as well, because like it was insane to have one person doing all that stuff. But that's like, that's just what you did, and there's still no people in the industry that do that, because mid-level bands like can't afford multiple crew members, so like there's an industry for that person. So that's what it was like early days. And then I guess as the production and as the venues got bigger, and it was just like a slow process. It was like, all right, this is crazy for one person to be doing all these jobs. um, yeah, so I think our next permanent crew member would have been Sam, our front of house tech. Um, and then it was monitors from there as well, with it, like the on stage sound obviously became really important because we have to hear what we're doing as well. So when you get to a certain venue size as well, the monitor um, technician is like separate from the front of house. I guess when you're playing smaller venues, the front of house tech is also doing the monitors because they don't have a separate setup side stage. But then when you get into bigger venues, there's a separate monitor desk side stage. And it can be hard rolling into a venue and meeting a house monitor tech and kind of describing what you need, like, in a short amount of time. Whereas if you rock up with your own tech who knows you and knows your sound and knows individually what each person needs to hear on stage, it just makes everything run a lot smoother. So yeah, it's just like, and nothing against like house techs, they're usually very proficient and they know their venue very well, but usually they don't know who you are or like anything about your music. So it just becomes an efficiency thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Was there a certain tour that you were kind of taken aback by, like, oh, we're not playing like this club anymore, we're playing like a theater? Was it like a big change like that at some point? You're like, oh, this is
Um,
moving to another direction.
yeah. I think, yeah, maybe around 2017, 2018, we started to tip over into those bigger venues in Europe and the States. Um, yeah, and that was like a noticeable thing because I guess like, I wouldn't like just looking at the names of the venues. I wouldn't like previous to the tour. I wouldn't look up the venues or anything like that. I'd literally just walk into them on the day, and everyone's different like that. Some people look them up and read everything about them, but I just don't. And yeah, and that like yeah, I guess around 2017, 2018, yeah, we just started to walk into places that were bigger and like beautiful old ornate theaters. And yeah, you just kind of walk in and be like, whoa, like how are we playing here? Like I had no idea. um yeah, that's definitely when it started to tip over into new territory, I guess.
Is the audience's reaction, whether it be in Australia, in the States, in Spain, all these different kinds of places that you play, is it generally the same reaction from the audience?
It's slightly different for sure. Yeah, I guess, not that we don't love playing in our home country and in our home city, but I think people are a little bit more reserved here. Um, and like in Japan, for example, they're very polite and reserved as well. Um, but yeah, I think America has a kind of unique culture of fandom that's different. Um, yeah, and people are definitely a lot more fervent over there. But then we haven't been to South America yet. But like Mexico is kind of similar to the States, maybe a level up of just that kind of like mania of fandom. And I think it's probably because bands don't go down there as much as they do North America. But yeah, there's definitely like slight differences everywhere we go.
When you started moving to different places and even outside the states, going to different international places, was there a place you're like, whoa, we're playing here, like Japan, for instance? Was that like a, wow, we're going to Japan?
Yeah, Japan was really cool, and the only show we've played there is at Fuji Rock Festival. It was one of those festivals where like you'd see the lineup on the internet, and you'd be like, I would travel to like go to a festival like that. So it was one of those ones. No, we hadn't been, but it was one of those ones that was known to us. Um, Sorry, I kind of forgot the question. What like?
Yeah, was there one that like stood out to you, like Japan, like, whoa, we're going to Japan?
Oh
Or
yeah, just a certain place. I don't know because we were kind of like pretty well traveled throughout America and UK and Europe before we kind of became like big, I guess. Whatever anyone's definition of that is, but we did so much of the grind and we'd covered a lot of ground before people started actually coming to our shows. um the first time we played in the States, we were playing in dive bars to like 10 people.
Would you say that you are now quote unquote big, a big band?
I mean, it just depends on what people's definition of that is. I
To
think,
you though.
yeah, I feel like it, because of the like the gradual kind of rise that we were talking about, and it being quite organic and somewhat like word of mouth. I think people are surprised, even people, friends or family, you know recently, like seeing us like sell out Hollywood Bowl and being like, what, like when it aligns with a venue or a festival or a place that they're aware of, like outside of us, or you know what I mean, like, oh,
Right,
Hollywood
right.
Bowl, so and so has played there and they're playing there to all these people, and it's like, oh, they're actually a, a big ish band.
Yeah, the
um
I
yeah,
think that
I feel like we've gone under the radar a little bit to the kind of like mainstream like zeitgeist, and we've just built our own way up organically a bit outside of that.
right. There I think there's this expression, it's like you're famous or you're big when people who are not familiar with what you do know your name. Like Michael
Yeah,
Jordan,
yeah.
people
Y-
know that name and
yeah,
they don't
exactly.
know basketball too much.
Exactly. But that like Michael Jordan, for example, I feel like is at the peak of celebrity. And there are like still celebrities today, whereas like I haven't really listened to a lot of like Taylor Swift's music, but everyone knows who Taylor Swift is. But now, because there's so many like media like channels or streams, I guess, like, you know, there can be people that are like huge in their little corner of the internet, and yeah, they are not known to like a lot of people. I think that's just something with the way like the media landscape is now, that it's there's we're not there's not as many gatekeepers,
Right, and there's so many different avenues for things to come out. There's not
Exactly.
just like one way. You have to be on this certain record label to even be known. It's like there's so many different
Exactly. So
things.
that's I don't think our situation is unique. Sometimes you come across like a musician or a band, or like someone who you've never heard of, and they have this huge following, like more than millions of people and
Taylor
fans. And
Swift, yeah. I mean, this is a new name to me, but yeah, sounds like she's pretty big by the way you're describing her. But
yeah, they're big in their corner of the internet, but not known to the mainstream. It's something that's not unique to us. I think it's just the modern media landscape.
right. Going back to that traveling thing and in playing Japan, for instance, at a festival, do you prefer to play festivals rather than like a Hollywood Bowl scenario?
I mean, there's kind of benefits to both. I mean, it's definitely wholly satisfying playing your own headline show when everyone there has like came specifically to see you. But there's festivals we've played where like hardly anyone there is aware of who we are, and you're just seeing the look on people's face when they're like discovering something new and seeing and hearing something they haven't heard before, and them really enjoying it is also incredibly satisfying. Um, but depends on the festival. Every festival is so different. Some people will go to a festival to see one band or one artist, but then I think the good festivals are like Meredith, the one that I mentioned, where like there's so much trust in the people that book and organize it, that people will go like regardless of the lineup. You know, there's festivals that sell out before a lineup is announced. And, you know, Meredith has always been one of those ones where like I only know a handful of artists playing, but I like discover so much music um, from them. Like, you know, like I discovered Nile Rodgers from going to Meredith. And, you know, he's a guy who like a lot of people don't know his name, but you would know every song of his because he's written so many hits for other people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you know, he's written with like Duran Duran, In Excess, David Bowie, and like, yeah, at Meredith one year, he's playing a headline spot, and everyone's kind of like, who is this guy? And then, you know, he opens with Just Dance, and he's like, oh, I wrote this with David Bowie, like, and everyone like you look around and it's just like who is this guy? But you know, we're just like discovering that he's like written so much of popular music.
Right.
uh, so yeah, no, I love headline shows, but yeah, I think with the right conditions, like festivals can be incredibly like satisfying and like just, you know, something where you can discover something new as well, and that, yeah, that can be wholly satisfying for us up on stage as well, you know, just making new fans, which is really cool as well.
Right. When you play festivals and play any kind of show, how often are you looking out and paying attention to the audience and how they're receiving it? Do you do that often, or it's kind of
A little bit. Like I'd say most of the time I'm like concentrating on what I'm playing. um but yeah, there are times where, you know, my eyes just kind of float out on the crowd and just kind of looking at people's faces and their reaction. um yeah, I don't know, it's probably like a small portion of the time I'm up there, but I definitely do it. You know, you like to like kind of check in with how everyone's kind of enjoying the show or not.
what's going through your mind right before you step on stage?
Yeah, I don't know, like I guess I don't know, but like I've kind of usually done the preparation and thought about the set and like kind of mentally run through like I guess the first few songs in my head. And I get, yeah, I guess, you know, I do get I and all of us like get nervous at certain points for sure. Like I get nervous for every show, but I think hopefully by the point that I'm walking on stage, I've kind of done my pre-show kind of prep routine, and you know, I'm just ready.
How do you
Usually, yeah, usually by that point, there's no nerves left.
how do you feel right after a show?
Usually just like, yeah, really good. Like it's like a natural high. Like there's lots of adrenaline. Um, yeah, more often than not, just really excited. Like I just want to keep playing.
Keep it going, an
Yeah.
encore after an encore. What's the longest amount of time that you played? Was it like the Hollywood Bowl show, or was it has
Yeah,
there
yeah, I
been
think, yeah, it was that. That was like just over 3 hours, and that was the first time we played without an intermission as well. Because we before that we'd done maybe 4 or 5 marathon shows, and we'd done a 15-minute intermission, and we just always felt it. Um, I don't know, maybe the crowd feels differently about this, but we always felt it just like breaks the momentum for us, and it just like feels weird to come off stage. So yeah, that was probably the longest we've played without a break.
how are you feeling in between that 15-minute kind of gap right there? What's going through your mind at that point?
You just want to get back out there, and I think that's why we axed it.
When you're performing live and not just for a 3 hour, just a small 3 hour concert, uh, when you're performing live, how often are you improvising some sections?
I more like I don't. It kind of varies each night depending on the set, and like it'll depend on whether whether we have a hard curfew or whether we have permission to like play longer than the like advertised set time. Like we'll just tailor a set depending on that. And like if we don't have a hard curfew, then we will put in the like songs that we know like will just naturally stretch themselves out. So it's different each night, but kind of more and more these days. I guess with like improvising, there's sections of the song that we know have an openness to them. Yeah, so
Sometimes, but not all the
yeah,
time.
sometimes like like if we have a festival set that's like 75 minutes and we have to get off at a certain time, then like that's usually a set where it's usually more to the point and to the minute. But headline shows where we don't have a hard curfew, well, it's so good just to like not have that hanging over you. Just you can just like get comfy and just take a song where it feels like it should go in the moment.
Right. Has there ever been an instance of improvisation that is kind of you kind of took that into account? You're like, oh, maybe I could use that for something else, and it's transferred over to another idea for
Yeah,
a completely different song.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, sometimes like we'll come off stage and like Stuart and Joe will be like talking about a riff that materialized, and yeah, I think it's hard to say, but I feel like there's definitely things that have then turned into songs in the recorded discography. I can't nail them down, but I feel like yeah, if you ask Stu or Joe that question, they'd be able to tell you.
I'll get on it. But
Yeah,
right now we're talking me and you, Lucas. It's just us.
yeah.
Them later on, but me and you right now.
But yeah, no, I feel like that's definitely happened for sure. Or it's just like the genesis of an idea that has like opened something up.
Right. Do you usually write by yourself, or is it with others that you're like bringing stuff or stuff comes up?
It's different every song and every album for Gizzard. Like, I guess we have albums that are like, like Ice Death for example, when like the original the initial tracking was done with everyone in the room. And it was done in like this jammy way, and then Stu, I guess, did the writing in the form of editing down those jams. Um, but then there's like Infest the Rat's Nest and Petrodragonic, which the initial sessions were just Stu, Cavs, and Joe. Just kind of that core like rhythm section, and then we all like overdubbed on our own or like in the same room. And then there's albums like Omnium, which have every combination almost possible, from all of us jamming into the one room to some songs almost being like one person as almost like the only like kind of contribution to a song. So yeah, I guess with Gizzard we just like run the gamut of kind of everything, and that that's the fun of it. I feel like if you have a formula, you get bored of it. So yeah, it's fun that it's always changing with Gizzard.
Right. There's a structure to that aspect. It's open.
Yeah, it's structured by not having a structure.
And there's, please correct me if I'm wrong, 23 albums.
Um, I think so. I'd have to check
All
it.
right, let's just say 23 albums.
I think Petro 23rd. Do you want me to check it? I can check it.
23rd. I mean, like 20 ish albums, and I mean that's so many
Petro
songs.
Petro is the 24th. So
Okay, 20, sorry, 24th. Thank you for checking it. I don't want to get yelled at. 24 albums now. Is it difficult to like remember? It's like, oh, how does this one go? Or is it always just in there constantly? Like, I know
no,
exactly.
we definitely need, yeah, reminding, I guess, like, yeah, on tour we're like cycling through like 120, 130 songs. But then there's some, like, if we put it on the set list, we'll have to, if we haven't played it in 6 or 12 months, we'll kind of familiarize ourselves individually, and then we'll run it in sound check probably a bunch of times if it's something we haven't played in a while. Um, yeah, because we kind of, sound checks are like 1 to 2 hours now, and we kind of treat them like a rehearsal most of the time. Um, so yeah, there's like, a decent batch of songs that we're cycling through, but yeah, a good portion of those, like, you need to run beforehand. Like, you can't. Yeah, there's I don't have everything just up there ready to go. You kind of have to unlock it.
Yeah, I mean that's a quite a bit of music to be shuffling
Yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah.
Do you have a favorite song to perform?
I don't. No, but
Is there
yeah,
is there one that you really enjoy playing? At least for right now.
um, yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know. I guess the ones where the bass lines are pretty busy and melodic. Are like, dripping tap, especially the intro to that is really cool. Beginner's luck, and I guess it's a little bit simpler, but Bird Song I really like. I just really like that song. I think it's a great song. It's like one of those songs that's like, on the outside it sounds really simple, but there's like a lot of weird like jazz theory going on there. um, but yeah, there's probably a handful of others. It changes as well, with what's rotating in the like batch of songs that we're playing.
Right.
Uh, if one comes up that we haven't like played in a while, and I'll be like, oh, this is, I forgot about this. This is like really fun to play.
You forgot about an entire song. Oh yeah, let me
I
think
like
back to it. Oh, I liked what I did there. Let's do that one.
yeah, you forget what it's like until you're in it. What it feels like.
Right. Is there a group discussion of like we should play this and whatnot?
Like like in the lead up to a show, or
Right. Or like, even like a tour, like, oh, okay, we should be playing
yeah,
these.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we do rehearse at home. Like, we're doing a week of rehearsals next week, and we've got a list of songs, which songs that we've never played before, like new and old. We've never played live before, and this was the same before the last tour. Um, and we won't get through all of them, but it's like, all right, these like a batch of songs that we'd like to be able to play live. So now we're all kind of rehearsing and working those parts out individually, and then we'll come together and just see what works and see how much we can get through. um, yeah, because we always like, want to like expand what we can do live, and vary our show up more, and give more to the fans.
What has been some songs that really gets people going to your to recollection?
um, yeah, I think just the longer jammier ones, like, dripping tap is, we pretty much always like open or close with that. That's always a lot of fun. um, I think, yeah, the new metal stuff, the like Petrojagonic is definitely, that album has got a great response online, and um yeah, playing those, we've kind of gotten through most of those songs now in the live context, and people are really getting into that as well, which is cool. Yeah, yeah.
Good deal. When you have interactions with fans, um, what is the usual interaction like? Hey, love it, or what does that kind of conversation look like?
Yeah, I guess it's usually at shows, so they're usually, you know, been following us for a while, and they've, made the effort to come out to a show, so they're usually pretty ecstatic, which can be overwhelming. Yeah, yeah, and they just, usually just really into it, and they just want to usually very respectful, and don't take up too much of your time, and they're just like, oh, I just want to say love your music, and love this song or this album, and thank you, which is really really sweet. But yeah, I just try to like play it down as much as possible, and just like get on their level and just be like, hey, I'm just a person,
We're
because
all
we
just
are.
people. Yeah,
We are, yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess I find that like that kind of stuff like a little bit weird, but yeah, just try to play it down.
that's awesome. Uh, is there a album that sticks out to you, uh, after all these albums? Like that, is there
Um,
one that you're like, oh, that one was really special for some sort of reason?
yeah, yeah. It's hard. I think it changes like day to day, tour to tour. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's too hard to answer. It
How
changes
about
every day.
as of right now, today, 10:58? What are you leaning
Uh,
towards right now?
I don't know. I guess the last few tours, like Ice Death, has been really cool in the way that it was made, and the way it evolved from those original jams, and the way Stu edited it and wrote from that. And then, you know, I feel like when we started listening back after he had done all that work, that the songs had changed into something different entirely. And then when we went to interpret them live again, we obviously can't play it note for note like the recording, because it's just so jammy, and yeah, and then they just continually evolve on stage, which that those songs I think have been, yeah, a kind of revelation to everyone in that sense, in how much they've evolved and how different they are every night. um yeah, so I feel like that in the last like year, that's been a big one for everyone, I think, and the band as a whole.
I'll check in tomorrow to see what the answer is tomorrow, but
Yeah.
that's the answer today.
Yeah, I think after the next tour it might change.
Okay. All right, good. So we're doing a periodic check-in with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now moving forward on to your new project, Heavy Moss.
Yeah.
And this is like really, really new,
Yeah, 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 it
right?
is. Yeah,
I mean,
it's
we're
less
we're
than a
talking
year
about
old.
we're talking about the end of 2022 that this was kind of formulated, right?
Yeah, 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 you're right.
What made you want to start this?
I guess for a long time I've always been writing my own stuff on the side, like mostly on keys. Um, and yeah, I just always wanted something that was my own. And I've always written, and more so over the last few years, more on keys, rather than guitar or anything else. And yeah, I think I got stuck in the trap of being a bedroom musician for a while, and like not getting anywhere with that, and like not being accountable to like anyone else, and just like, yeah, just not finishing anything because of that. I'm just like not a good self motivator. um and yeah, I just kind of languished, obviously, honestly, for years with that, just kind of like going around in circles. And I think I think a lot of people kind of identify with this. I've just got a lot of like unfinished sessions and songs on my computer that, yeah, are just at a state of like maybe 70 or 80%, and just never finished, or like never did anything with them. Yeah, so I just wanted like something to like devote that to. Like, yeah, I guess some of the there's a small handful that like went to Gizzard, but yeah, just like wanted something different. Um, yeah, so I randomly like ran into an old friend last year, and yeah, we just got chatting, and he's a drummer, and we hadn't played. No, we'd been in a band together in the past, but hadn't played together for a long time, and yeah, we just ran into each other, and we are just like, yeah, let's have a jam, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And yeah, I just quickly realized that I needed other people to rely on and who rely on me to like push me to
Was that
create.
the motivator, the final like push that you needed to
Yeah,
get these things going?
yeah,
Was the
100%.
was the meetup with him?
Yeah. It just quickly became a thing. It was like the first time we jammed actually. Like I had, a song that I'd been sitting on for a few years, and we just yeah, we just recorded it, and then we recorded the drums, and then we're just going back and forth with all the other parts since then. And yeah, we picked up another couple of members, and now we're kind of a band, I guess. We're not playing any shows at the minute, but just like working on recordings, which will hopefully make an album, hopefully at some point next year, I think.
Right. In the first, there's two singles out right now as we're speaking. It's Morning Milk and is it Suma? Am I saying that right?
The summer, yeah, it's just
Sama.
like
Sama.
intentional misspelling.
Okay. Were those kind of early on, like early songs that you just had in the background, or were they more recent ones that you've been working on and trying to hash out?
um Morning Milk is a song I probably wrote almost 10 years ago now. And has actually been released in another format a long time ago. Um, but yeah, this version is very different. And Summer is the guitarist, Kyle, one of his songs, which I think as well is was kind of a collection of maybe two or three songs or two or three demos that he had stockpiled as well, and kind of cobbled them together. Um, yeah. So that's another cool thing as well. Kyle, the guitarist, is a really good songwriter, guitarist, and singer too. So yeah, that quickly became apparent. That we could collaborate and share songs, and that I wouldn't be like a sole kind of songwriter, which has been another great thing about the band, and just like encouraging that collaboration, and kind of like a similar ethos to Gizzard, in a way that anyone can do anything. Well, that's how we want it to be.
Right. Where did the name Heavy Moss stem from?
Nothing significant. We were just like we were going back and forward for a while, and just kind of probably overthinking what the name should be, because I kind of think that like once you decide on something, then it just becomes a thing, and you just kind of get used to it. I think it was just like word association in the end, that we just had all these words, and we just kind of mix them around in different combinations, and that's just something that kind of sounded good. And I kind of like that it like sounds like something it's not, almost, as well. Like I think with Heavy Moss, like people might think we're like like a sludge like doom band. But I like that it's like pretty much almost the polar opposite of that.
Also, the weight of moss, I wouldn't expect it to be heavy
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Did you know when you started this that you were not going to be on bass? Like, did you
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
immediately
That
think
was
that?
that was intentional. Yeah. When Sam and I jammed for the first time, I like started playing guitar because I in the bands that we used to play in ages ago, I played guitar and sang. Um, but yeah, I like quickly kind of hit a wall with that. Like I was saying earlier on, like I don't consider myself like a very good guitarist. I can play a song, I can get by, but I'm no kind of like lead guitarist. So kind of yeah, I think and that's kind of why I like maybe part of the reason why that original band kind of fizzled. Like I kind of feel like I hit a creative wall of not being able to like play like what was in my head, I guess a little bit. But yeah, then with Sam the drummer and I started playing keys, and he was really encouraging. He was just like, because I've written all these songs on keys, and he was like, you should just play keys in this band. Like, these songs are really good. Like you're good on it on the piano. So it was like that was really huge encouragement for me. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play keys in this band, and that'll be a thing. But yeah, like I wouldn't rule out like some of the recordings I've played bass on, maybe a little bit of guitar here and there. But yeah, like definitely keys is going to be my primary thing in this band, which is really cool because I've like I can see and hear and feel myself like getting better on the instrument as well, which is awesome.
Has stepping away from the bass, at least for a bit, working on this project here, has that allowed you to kind of think of new things to do on the bass while kind of stepping away from it and being or absorbing the keys more?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's I mean any like instrument you play forces you to think about music in a different way. Yeah, and I'll come up with stuff in the left hand on the piano and be like, oh, if like I'll write a bass line on the piano, but if I was sitting on the bass and trying to come up with a bass line for that song, I wouldn't write it like that, because every instrument's like really different with how you play and approach it. And yeah, it just like opens different avenues. And yeah, when you play something and you try to transpose it onto a different instrument, like usually the first thing you think of is like, oh, I wouldn't write something like that, or I wouldn't come up with something like that if I was on this instrument. So I feel like it just makes you a better writer and a better musician in that way.
Right, making your mind move in a different direction.
Exactly. Yeah, just having a different angle of looking at something.
If you hadn't gravitated towards the bass, do you think that keys would have been the natural second option and you would have just been honing in on that?
Um, I mean, maybe. Like, I feel like I started like taking piano lessons in high school, probably around the same time. Um, yeah. So maybe if the situation had called for it, like it did, in that band where we didn't have a bassist, so I just started playing bass.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's always been a thing for me. And I've played keys on Gizzard records here and there. But yeah, maybe it would have been for sure.
And
More so,
then
yeah, more so than guitar for
I was
sure.
gonna say, and then the third option would be guitar. That'd be
Yeah,
the third one.
yeah.
Um, do you feel like Morning Milk and Sama set the tone for what you're trying to do with this band, this project?
Um, yeah, maybe. It's hard to tell yet. Like, we're such a new band, we're still finding our way and finding out what our sound is. But yeah, maybe they are, because I feel like they're very different as well. Like, Morning Milk is a pretty slow, like ballad, and Summer's a bit more like upbeat and soulful. And yeah, we're only just starting out, but like, yeah, maybe they're kind of like indicative of our like two writing styles. Yeah, yeah,
The
I think so.
collaboration.
Maybe we'll have to see where it ends up.
Time will tell.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you describe the sound?
I mean, we're just saying. I think we're saying like psychedelic pop,
It's good.
which
It's
kind of,
good.
which kind of sounds a bit silly sounding saying it out loud, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's still a kind of like hard thing to describe at this point because we're so new, and we've got more songs that are like still percolating and still becoming what they're going to be. But yeah, I guess we're not wholly sure yet. But I think that's what we've been saying in press releases. I guess yeah, they're both such broad terms as well. And they mean different things to different people. Like especially pop is such a loaded word, and we're not trying to sound like Taylor Swift, but I guess like my definition of like pop is very different. Like I guess the production isn't like modern pop music. It's probably quite the opposite. But yeah, pop to me is just something that's catchy.
And it's
Whether
catchy.
yeah,
So is there a plan for the future of having a album out?
yeah, we're working on an album, and we're kind of, I don't know, probably not quite halfway there. I mean the good thing about the band is there's so many ideas and there's so many songs bouncing around, like too many for us to keep up with, which is like a really awesome thing to just like feel inspired every time we get together, and there's always something to work on, and there's never a point where we're like, which I have had in bands in the past where you're kind of everyone's looking at each other, kind of like twiddling their thumbs, kind of like what's the next thing, or like who's got the next thing, like what's the direction here. Like there's just so many ideas, and everyone's really enthusiastic and encouraging. And yeah, I guess the only thing about that is like we have a limited amount of time together because yeah, everyone has jobs and families and other things they have to do. So it's yeah, we're kind of just trying to get together as much as we can, and we'll like kind of record a song or a batch of songs, and then we'll all kind of work on those individually in our own time. We're still yeah, that's kind of how we're doing it at the moment. We're not really working towards putting a set together, but just putting an album together and just doing that in the most kind of like efficient way possible that we can right now.
What do you want people to take away from both Heavy Moss and King Gizzard and the music that you create?
Just to enjoy it, like when I guess just like what I get out of music when I listen to it is just like something to grab onto that sticks with you. That something that like sticks in your ear, or like something that affects you, or something that like makes you think differently, or like think about something differently that you haven't in the past, or something that makes you like theorize or philosophize, or just yeah, just something that makes you think. I think that's like the music that I listen to and that stays with me, is like that's what I get out of it. So I hope that that's what people get out of the music that we make.
Terrific. Lucas, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. But before I let you go, I got some promo to do. The people can find Heavy Moss's music everywhere, right? These two songs that we've been talking about are
Yeah,
streaming everywhere.
yeah, all the usual DSPs.
Um, and yeah, so that's everywhere. You can buy the two songs that we're talking about and the merch. You got a cool t-shirt up there right now on
Yeah,
the Bandcamp.
on Bandcamp, and the
And
t-shirts on Gizverse as well, Gizverse Australia.
good
So you can
deal.
So you can bundle that with some Gizzard merch if you see fit.
And people can also get it at heavymoss.bandcamp.com. And everybody can stay up to date with news and shows and releases and all that good stuff by following Heavy Moss on Instagram, right? Is that the best place?
Yeah, yeah,
Good
definitely.
deal. And that's at heavy_moss on Instagram. And there's this other band that you're in. It's called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. And that, all of those songs, the 23, do we say 23 albums?
24 now.
24. I'm sorry. All the 24 albums worth of music is streaming everywhere, wherever you get your music. That's where you could find it. Um, you could find the merch through King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.com and Gizverse, which we just mentioned.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you could also stay up to date with news and tours and releases and everything else by following them on Instagram at King Gizzard on Instagram.
Oh, we've also started uploading all the bootlegs, Kinga's bootlegs and live albums under a different name on DSPs called Bootleg Gizzard. So
That's
I think,
awesome.
yeah, I don't think that's something we're gonna like promote too heavily, but I think fans are starting to find that out. But yeah, there's hopefully, yeah, just they've previously only been available on Bandcamp and our website, but hopefully that makes things a bit more accessible for everyone.
Lucas, seriously, thank you so much for carving out a little bit of your day here to come and chat. I really appreciate it. And
Of course.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you, sir. And I'm gonna
We'll
stop
talk to you.
recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute. All right.
All right. Thanks,
All
man.
right. Thank you, sir.
Peace.